Hey everyone, my name is Jeremiah Kellogg, and I'm the Systems Librarian at Eastern Oregon University. This video is the first in a series that goes through the steps I took for dealing with the required PHP update on WordPress installations. I'll cover how I did this specifically with a Debian server, but the steps will likely be similar for other Linux distributions. I'm also breaking each step into a separate video, as each component to this can serve as a standalone tutorial. So if one component to the process isn't necessary for your situation, you can skip to the component that does. Or if there's only one component to the process you'd like some guidance on, you can simply watch that video. My intent here is to hopefully serve as a guide to those who have basic Linux skills through this process. Each WordPress installation is going to be slightly different, so there may be things I don't cover in this series. Our WordPress site for the EOU library is fairly basic, and I'd rate my skills as a Linux systems administrator to be at an intermediate level. So if you're already an expert systems administrator and you're overseeing a large and complex WordPress installation, this may not be the series for you. My target audience here are people in similar situations as myself, librarians, tech enthusiasts, aspiring web developers, and anyone who finds themselves in a situation where they need to do this update but don't have a strong background in this kind of stuff. In this first video, I'm just going to give a general overview to the process. In the next video, the second video, I'll be updating my Debian 8 operating system to Debian 9. The third video will go through the steps of updating from Debian 9 to Debian 10, which is the most current version of Debian at the time this video is being made. In the fourth video, I'll cover the steps you'll need to go through to ensure the latest version of PHP is being used. This will remove the notice in your WordPress dashboard about the required PHP update. In the fifth and final video, I'll go over some problems I encountered with the PHP code widget and how I fixed those. So I'll begin by going to our sandbox environment that I've created using VirtualBox. This is why you're going to see an IP address up here. Anytime I do any sort of major updates like this, I like to do it in a sandbox environment beforehand, and it always proves to be very useful, so I would highly encourage others to do the same. So I'm just going to quickly jump over to this tab where my admin dashboard is set up, and you'll see that I have the PHP update required notification here. And we're given a little button here that gives us a link to a page that describes why this is important to us. And so as you can see, PHP is the coding language that WordPress is built on. So this is a pretty big deal, and it is a rather large update going from PHP 5 to PHP 7. We're currently, the most recent version of PHP is 7.3, which is what we will end up installing onto our server. And they go on to explain that the website will be more secure once we get that done. Now, the next thing we want to look at is the before you update your PHP version. This is very useful information, very important information. So these are all the steps we need to do before we actually go through the update process. So what they're telling us here is to make a backup of your website, and this is really easy to do. And I think I'm going to do it using an FTP client rather than saving it on the server, just in case the server blows up. So I think it's a good idea to put your backup on whatever machine you're working from. And I'm doing that with FileZilla. So once you log into FileZilla, you should be brought to your home directory on the server. So here's the server side of things, and I'm brought to my home folder. But really what I want to do is go to the root folder. I want to go to the var directory and the www directory, and this is where all of my WordPress stuff lives. So actually I'm gonna go back one directory. Back into the var directory, and from here what I would end up doing is you'll see that the computer that I'm on now, the Windows computer that I'm using FileZilla to connect to my server with, here's my desktop, or actually more accurately my desktop icons are down here. And what I would do is just drag and drop this over here, And this is the sort of thing that's going to take a while. Okay, and after a few minutes, I will have downloaded all of my contents from this www directory onto my client machine. So now I have a nice safe backup to resort to if things go wrong. So it occurs to me after doing that there are you may have encountered some permissions issues, and I'm going to show you how to get around those. The other thing is we want to be sure that we back up our database as well, so I'm also going to show you how to do that. So we'll start with the possible permissions issues that may have encountered, and what I'm going to do is just go to the directory where all of my WordPress files are. And so we'll list all of the contents there. And actually, if I do ls-la, it shows who owns all of the different directories and files. So in some cases, root owns them. In some cases, www-data owns them. This can cause a problem when you're trying to move files from one server to another. You need to have the right permissions, and I encounter this fairly regularly with FileZilla. So, trying to move this www directory over here to my desktop could possibly cause problems because it is owned by someone else. In my case, I put the www directory, I gave ownership to myself, and then group permissions to www-data. But this is a test environment, and that's okay. In a production environment, you may want to do things a little differently to keep them secure, and I'm going to show you what I do in my production environments. So what I'm going to do is go back to my home page or my home directory. Let's just clear this out. And so print working directory, we're in the right place. I want to make a new directory. And do that with the mkdir command. I'm going to call this directory wp backup. And if you keep these things on file or archive of them, you may want to put a date in there too, but I'm not going to worry about that. And we'll just make sure it's there. All right, let's go ahead and copy all of the contents from our WordPress directory. In my case, that's www to this wp backup directory. And we can do that with, I believe we need to use sudo and cp for copy and -r for recursively, so we'll copy everything from one directory to the next. The directory that we want to copy is var www, and then we want to put in an asterisk here because that serves as a wildcard to grab everything within this www directory. So this is the directory we want to copy. Now we need to put a path to the directory we want to copy all of those files to. And we can use the tilde, which is essentially home/jkellogg. This is just a quick and easy way to say from my home directory. And we'll do a slash and wp backup. And now that I'm thinking of it, we probably want to put a little V in here too, which means verbose. And what that's going to do is show us the progress. If we don't use that V, the cursor is just going to sit here for a few minutes, and we're not going to know for sure what's going on. So with this command, if I hit enter, we'll have all of these things getting copied over from the var directory to our new directory. What I'm going to do is pause while this happens and come back when it's done. Okay, so my files have finished copying, and we want to be sure that they're actually copied. I'm just going to clear all of this, and let's go into the WP backup directory. We'll ls-la to check this out. Okay, and because we used the sudo command, everything got ownership from root. So I think the smart thing to do here is to change the ownership for all of these files so that we can log in as our Linux user using FileZilla and then be able to upload everything. So to do that, we'll use the chown command, and that's pretty simple. let's just clear this. Oops, clear again. And I think we'll have to use sudo and CHOWN, and then the user, in my case J Kellogg, and then the user group. I'm just going to put J Kellogg in again. And let's see, we want to put ownership on all files in WP backup. And so if we go ahead and hit enter, now if we do LSLA, oops, we need to put an asterisk in there. Actually, maybe this is one of those commands that needs to be done recursively, so we'll put in a -R, and that should do it. ls-la. And so now I have changed ownership of all of the files within the WP backup to my user. And again, that is sudo CHOWN-R. Don't forget that for recursive, and then the user, and then the user group. And then the directory that you want to have all of those ownerships changed in. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to want to do is I'm just going to clear this again. And what we need to do is get the name of our WordPress database, and I don't know mine off the top of my head, so I need to go into MySQL to check that out. And if I run sudo mysql-u root-p, I'm logging into MySQL as root so that I can get the name of my WordPress database. So if I hit enter, I'm asked for my password, and this is specific to, so you may get your user password. You may be asked for password for, so in my case, J Kellogg, because we're using sudo, but I've put in my password recently, so I'm not being asked for it. So when you see the enter password prompt, that is for MySQL, and so you'll want to go ahead and put that in. Access denied. I must have typed in the wrong password. There we go. And so depending on what database you're using, this might be MySQL, this might be MariaDB. Debian now comes standard with MariaDB rather than MySQL. So what I need to do here is run the show databases command. So we're in SQL territory here, show databases, and enter. And we'll see that we have one called WordPress. That is the likely candidate. So with this information, I can exit MySQL. And now what I want to do is dump all of that data from the WordPress database into an SQL file. And we'll do that in the WP backup, so everything's all in one place. This will work out pretty well. And the command for this is, I believe we're going to have to use sudo. And then what is it? MySQL dump. Let's see. I think we're going to have to put in user root-p, and then we just use the database name, which is WordPress, and then we use the greater than sign to take all of the data from the WordPress database and have it ingested into a file. And this file we're going to call WordPress, and then we'll give it the extension SQL. And if I hit enter, it's asking for my MySQL password, and so I'll put that in. Okay, now if I use the ls command, you'll see that we have the WordPress.sql file right here, and you can actually take a look at it if you're curious as to what it looks like. Sudo nano, actually we don't have to do sudo anymore, so nano WordPress SQL, and so you have all of the SQL queries or this database. So that is effectively backed up. And I get actually, you know what? Let's see. If we do ls la, and then I think if I type in WordPress SQL, you'll see that I do have ownership of that. So at this point, we're pretty much done. All we need to do is use FileZilla once again, and I may have to refresh this. So if I go ahead and refresh that, and if I go back to my home and J Kellogg and the WP backup, you'll see that it's all owned by J Kellogg. I'm logged in as J Kellogg. So at this point, all I have to do is just grab the WP backup and drop it right into here. I'm not going to bother with that because I already have my www backup. Okay, let's go back to the WordPress page, and we've already done the updates. All of my updates have been done. If I had any updates that needed to be done, then I would get a warning here letting me know that things need to be updated. So I know everything is up to date at the moment. And then we have the check PHP compatibility. In theory, this is a great idea. It would be a great plugin. However, when I tried using it, it didn't work for me. It wouldn't run. I'm not sure why, so I just went ahead and did things without knowing whether or not my plugins in the PHP custom PHP I was using on my website worked or not. Spoiler alert, it did break a few things, but that's good because we can go through why those things broke and how to fix them. Okay, so now that I've identified what we intend to do, updating the PHP for the server that my WordPress installation lives on, I think what we'll do is end the video here, and in the next video, in my case, we had to upgrade from Debian 8 to Debian 9, and then it made sense at this point because Debian 10 is the most recent, updating from 9 to 10. So with the next video, I will show you how to go about updating Debian 8 to Debian 9. And in terms of this video, I think we've covered everything. Leave any comments if you have questions below, and I will see you in the next video.